Hello and welcome to Run Testers. My name's Nick, and this is our review of the Asics Fuji Speed 2. So the Fuji Speed 2 is Asics' carbon plate trail racing shoe. It's launched in the UK already, where it costs £160. It's not quite available yet in the US, so we don't have that price as yet. It's a pretty lightweight shoe. It weighs in at 257 grams or 9 ounces exactly in my UK size 9, which is a US 10, and it has a 5mm drop from heel to toe. There's no official stack height given for the shoe at the moment, but it's pretty high. It's one of these new breed of trail running shoes that start to bring in the stacks from road shoes. The midsole has a lot of similarities to the Magic Speed 3 road running shoe. You've got an FF Blast Plus foam midsole, which is not Asics' best foam, which is the FF Turbo you find in the Meta Speed shoes and the Super Blast, but it is still a lightweight, pretty bouncy foam, and it's got a carbon plate running through it to add some more pop. You've also got Asics' guide sole rocker going on there, so all in all, it's got a lot of similarities to maybe more the plated trainers you see on the road side of shoes, like the Asics Magic Speed 3 or the Saucony Endorphin Speed line, where you've got a rocker, carbon plate, and a good foam, although in this case, with Asics, they don't give either the Magic Speed or the Fuji Speed the best foam in their lineup, which is the FF Turbo Plus. Got a woven upper with a gusseted tongue. You've got some reinforced sections around the front of the shoe, like little plasticky overlays there to protect the toes a little bit. There's a bit of a heel counter going on as well for stability. A lot of padding at the heel actually to create some extra comfort, even though there's not a lot on the tongue. You've got a pull tab at the back and a lace garage. On the outsole, you've got Asics grip, which is obviously an in-house material from Asics. Unlike other brands, they don't outsource this to Vibram or Continental. You've got these interesting three-pronged lugs, almost like little ninja stars there, and they're slightly stepped as well. And though they're not the longest lugs in the world, they do have a little bit of bite for soft ground, but they are probably more designed to grip well on slightly firmer trails and technical trails, that kind of thing. In general, the shoe has quite a narrow overall design compared to some of the other big trail shoes we've been testing lately, things like the Ultrafly or even the Adidas Terrex Agravic Speed Ultra, which either have very wide forefoot or are just wide in general to create stability. This is much more narrow and in keeping with the style of Asics' road shoes, I'd say.
So I run in a UK 6. I found the length of the Fuji Speed 2 to be okay. That was a good fit, but they do fit a little bit more narrow around the midfoot and the toe, whereas in most trail shoes you'd expect maybe a bit more room in the toe. These are a lot of more narrower fit, and they reminded me a bit more of, say, cross-country spikes, that sort of fit than a lot of trail shoes that I run in. But for me, they weren't too tight. They were just noticeably like a skinny jeans for my feet. But they weren't, they weren't uncomfortable. They fitted okay. But I am on the narrower side, so if you're a wide fit, you're probably not going to get on well with these. If you are a narrower footed person, then these will be good for you. But yes, fit okay, but on the slimmer side. The laces, really good laces. They've got these like bobbly bits on the like texture on the outsides of them. That means that once you've tied your foot in and you've got the fit that you want, they're not budging, so those laces don't slip anywhere. So if you're happy with the fit, it's going to stay like that all the way during the run. Also on the upper, when I took them out of the box, I did notice the toe box. This material, because it seems like it kind of doesn't move very, see how it's crinkled up a little bit. I did think, is that going to be a bit stiff? Is it going to be a bit tight? But actually it felt fine, because it's not got any stretch to it. It just is as it is. But once my foot had filled that out, it was fine. It's very breathable, that fabric, so much so that my toes, because it was very dusty and dry on my route, my socks were quite dusty from the road, so you could see from the trail, you could see that the airflow was moving. I do think if it's wet, you're gonna get soggy feet though, but you're gonna get soggy feet in most shoes. But yeah, there's a lot of airflow through that toe box.
So the fit's worked really well for me with the Asics Fujispeed 2. It's got quite a narrow fit, and I say it works well for me because I do have quite a narrow foot. I like the kind of racy feel you get from this shoe because it is quite a narrow shoe. It feels a bit close around the midfoot and the toes, but obviously that is something that might not appeal to lots of other people. So if you have a wider foot, I think it might feel a little bit restrictive. On length, it's fine, but it might just be a little bit cramped, especially if you're looking at it as a shoe you'd like to go and do very long races in, ultra marathons in. It might feel a little bit cramped on that front, but I really like the fit. It's really dialed in and makes you feel very secure. I don't get any lateral movement when I'm running hard on twisting single tracks and that kind of thing. So yeah, I was fine with the fit in my normal size.
So my runs, it's been very dry here, so I would love to be able to, well, I wouldn't really actually. Well, I don't really want to go running in the mud at the moment, but I would like to be able to tell you about that from the shoe perspective. Fortunately I can't, because it's been very dry here. So what I can tell you though, based on that, is that the ground, even on the trails here, is very firm, but it's very comfortable running in this shoe on the firm ground. The foam was nice and good level of cushioning. A lot of my trail miles I like doing in the Hoka Tecton X2 and the first one as well, still regularly running that one. And this in some ways is a very similar shoe because it's got that carbon plate trail shoe. The Hoka Tecton X2 has a lot thicker sole. I think we've got about an extra 10mm in the stack on that. So I was not expecting to find this as comfortable as that. Having said that, it was comfortable and I enjoyed it. I liked that feeling of being closer to the ground in a way. I did feel that it would be maybe a nice cross-country shoe to wear. It did feel like a racing shoe because of that lower profile, you know, closer to the ground feel. The spring from the plate, I did start thinking, this is an option for cross-country seasons not too far away on the calendar. And maybe this is an option for that. If I'm used to wearing spikes for cross country, but now where I live, it's not, the league doesn't have a lot of that kind of ground where you need spikes. So if you're in a race where there is that harder ground, either compacted or you're going to have to go on paths because that's the nature of the course, and spikes aren't going to be suitable for that, something like this might actually be quite good. And I could see, because of that closer fit and the lock-in that you can get, you get your foot nicely locked into that so that, you know, you run for a massively squelchy bit on a cross-country course and you hope that your shoe's going to come out with your foot. There is that level of security in the fit on this shoe that I'm not losing that shoe in a big muddy bit of Hampstead Heath.
So I've done 50k in the Asics Fujispeed 2 and I've really loved using it there. Like, it feels very fast when you put it on, and it is fast when you go and run on the trails as well. I think a lot of the super trail shoes that I've been testing lately are geared probably a little bit more towards ultra events. They don't necessarily feel all that speedy and fantastic when you first pull them on. They're comfortable, but a bit more geared to be stable and forgiving over long distances, whereas this feels far more like a fast road shoe in many ways. Like, it definitely reminds me of shoes like the Magic Speed 3 or the Endorphin Speed 2, where it feels like nimble, fast, big rocker going on there. It's not excessively bouncy or anything like that, but it certainly feels very quick and designed for speed. Like I said, the foam when combined with the plate creates a fairly firm feeling underfoot, and the rocker is very noticeable. Creates quite a smooth ride with a little bit of pop from the plate, and it feels very easy to pick up your feet deep into hard runs or when you're trying to push up a long hill, something like that. I did one longer hill session in the shoe running 6 3-minute reps up a hill, and even when very tired, your legs are burning, it feels easy to keep picking the Fuji Speed up. And then if you do hit some flatter ground when you're deep into runs and want to keep running fast, the rocker really comes into play and helps you keep turning your feet over, maintaining a nice high cadence. So the nimble, light feel of the shoe is certainly very much a positive, especially when you are a bit tired. So the hardest run I did in the shoe was a progression hour running like 60 minutes with 20-minute intervals on heart rate, raising the heart rate each 20 minutes. Just did just over 10 miles in total available in that time. And this was on like a gently undulating route on fairly tame trail, so nothing too technical, no long climbs or anything like that. And it did feel you could really get into a nice rhythm of the shoe, roll on and run quick for a long period, very much in the way that when I do this on the road, I really enjoy using something like the Magic Speed or the Endorphin Speed, because it doesn't feel as propulsive and aggressive as a full plated shoe, but you do get that nice fluid turnover, and it does save the legs a little bit and just helps you maintain that pace deep into the run. So really what stood out for me with the shoe is that it's a shoe that I really feel comfortable using to go and do workouts I normally do on the road, on the trails. Like if I'm picking, a select trail area where it's not too hilly, it's pretty good trails where I want to go and do one of the workouts I just have in my training plan, I'd rather do them off-road. The Fuji Speed 2 feels great to do them off-road when I'd normally go and find a flat piece of ground and run in something like the Endorphin Speed and do them on the road instead. So it's a nice thing to have available, because before it wasn't really a trail shoe that really did that for me in my eyes, because even fast trail shoes I like using for trail racing were generally quite minimal and not a shoe I'd go and bash out a hard hour in during a training week, because I want my legs to feel good the next day. Whereas this does have that feeling of those super road trainers that do protect the legs a bit while still being nice and quick. So I say the downsides of the Fuji Speed 2 in general are probably comfort, for one, compared to some of the more ultra focus shoes out there, things like the Ultrafly I've been testing, the Terex Asics Speed Ultra, the Hoka Tech next to, even the Endorphin Edge. It's not quite as comfortable as those shoes. It feels a bit more firm and aggressive, and it's probably not a shoe I personally would line up a really long, like ultra distance run in myself. I think I'd be happy racing up to like a marathon on pretty well groomed trails, but if it was on very hard rocky stuff or looking at ultra distances, I don't think they'd be quite comfortable enough for me. Others will disagree on this. I'm sure the Asics pros have been using them for races at UTMB and that kind of thing, but I think I prefer one of the other shoes. Just when I'm going to start moving at a slower speed, I'd probably prefer to tip the balance a bit more towards comfort with something like the Ultrafly. And stability, I think, 'cause it is quite a narrow shoe and you don't get that big wide landing zone that you do get on some of the other plated trail shoes and things like that. It's not as great for dashing down hills when you've got a little bit more technical stuff to deal with, and more jagged rocks, some roots, some rutted ground. Because it is a quite stiff midsole with the foam and the play in there, it does feel like it moves your foot around a bit more than some of the others. So I'd say that might be a concern for someone who's tackling mountain tracks a lot, because it is so light and nimble. Like, it does feel like you can dance down those tracks, but I think it's a shoe that doesn't feel quite as stable and just pounding down a hill, and you want a big wide base to land on and feel comfortable landing on. It doesn't have that to the extent of some of the other shoes in this category. For me, the grip has been really good in testing, but it's been pretty dry and hot here in the UK. I did have a couple of slightly muddy patches, and I think that's what this outsole can do. Like, it's a pretty versatile outsole in that if you are on a mostly dry run and go through a couple of boggy patches, you're not going to immediately fall over. It's got a little bit of bite there, but it's not really a shoe that's going to be reliable for long stretches on very soft ground, I'd say. It's more built for kind of a mix of terrain and more focused on the harder stuff, I'd say. So although it's not an outsole that I have any real criticisms of based on my testing, it's probably not one that I'd line up for the real depths of cross-country season here in the UK, something like that, where you are going to go through just mud the whole time, because I don't think it's going to be quite as grippy as shoes with longer lugs for that. During my testing, no concerns on grip, and on the road it's actually been okay as well. Like, I thought those lugs, because they are quite thin and they're not that shallow, I thought they might be a little bit skittery on the road, but not at all. There's enough overall surface area there to create a smooth ride when you are on roads, and again on runnable trails they aren't too long or in the way. They just grip well, but they don't give you any unnecessary ground contact, put it that way. So I think it's quite a well-judged outsole all round, and probably the best I've come across that isn't outsourced from someone like Vibram. So although the Fuji Speed 2 is probably one of the less heralded new entrants in the trail super shoe category, the big name releases like the Ultrafly and Adidas shoe coming out recently, I think it's actually one that's probably going to suit a lot of people better than those other shoes. And the fact it is considerably cheaper than the new trail super shoes that are out there is a real bonus as well, because the performance is definitely there for the use case scenario I think a lot of people will need. That is running probably most of the time on reasonably tame trails and up to about marathon distance. This shoe feels really good for that. It's very fast, it feels very racy, it's got a bit of a road shoe feel to it with that extra grip. And I think it will, like I say, suit people's uses very well. Like, it's a great shoe you can go and use for training a lot on the trails, doing hard runs, you can race in it. It's got some weaknesses, certainly, and it's not going to be as comfortable as some shoes if you're going up to ultramarathon in particular. If that's not what you're going to do, it is lighter and does feel a bit faster to me than things like the Ultrafly or even the new Adidas shoe, just because it is just built bit more for speed. It has a speedier feel to it. So it's great that it is a lot cheaper, because that's obviously a big bonus as well. So I'll run through some of the comparisons of the shoes I have tested. I've got the New Balance SC Trail coming in as well, but I haven't used that yet. But of the shoes I have tested, if you compare it to the Ultrafly, Ultrafly feels like a very ultra focused shoe. I run up to 50k in that shoe. It's really comfortable, and I really like the way it feels deep into runs, but it doesn't feel so good when you are trying to push the pace as the Asics for me. Like, the Asics is a much more direct shoe, a bit punchier, a bit more nimble. Ultrafly can move pretty well, but I think its main strength is maintaining a decent pace for a very long period, and doesn't feel so great if you are just going to kind of try and do something like that hard hour training run I talked about in the run test. It's a much more comfort focused shoe, but it is a lot more stable as well with that wide forefoot if you're going to go down a lot of hills. Then the Adidas Terrex Agravic Speed Ultra, which I've just started testing. I've done about 50k in that shoe now, including a long run. And that's a really interesting shoe, because that does feel bouncier than the Fuji Speed, and it's got a lot of pace, so it's only a little bit heavier, and it's got that full Light Strike Pro midsole. It does deliver a lot of booming pace. It's not quite as nimble and agile as something like hill reps as the Fuji Speed, I'd say, but if you're going to maintain a good pace on a fairly runnable trail marathon or something like that, I think the Asics would be the better pick. It is a bit bouncier, a bit softer, a bit more accommodating to your legs. It will probably help you go deeper into the race. But the way it's shaped with its very wide forefoot and narrow back, I think that is something that could throw people a little bit. And I think the Fuji Speed probably feels a bit more normal, and it's a lot cheaper, and it's probably the shoe I'd still prefer to use out of the two for something like a fast 5k on good trails. That's something I'd probably prefer to use. Terrex does have that big wide forefoot though, and the soft foam probably makes it more comfortable in very hard rocky runs, and it is a good base for landing on your forefoot when running downhills. I think the sketchy thing with the Adidas is how narrow it gets at the back. That's a shoe also only available next year, so if you're looking to buy a shoe now, then you're probably going to get the Asics. And the Hoka Tech X2 I think doesn't feel as outright quick as the Fuji Speed again, but that is a really well balanced shoe. Like, it's not got the most exciting or lively midsole, but it does have a nice light feel to it. You can run quick in it, I found, and the ride is really reliable if you're running on tricky trails. It's stable, you've got a good landing zone, there's nothing sketchy about it, the grip's very good from the Vibram, and that's a shoe I think you can kind of use for any distance. Like, it's going to be comfortable, it's not going to do anything weird to your body, like the Terrex can do a little bit of its aggressive rocker. So I think that's probably the more accomplished shoe for long distances in particular. But again, I do think the Asics is a bit faster for doing quick sessions, quick workouts on the trails during the week, and then racing shorter distances on the trails as well. Saucony Endorphin Edge, I think it's quite similar to the Fuji Speed for me in terms of the way it feels. Like, it has got a lot of road elements in the way it feels on the run, but it's a bit wider, a bit more stable. Again, probably a shoe I'd feel a bit more confident in pounding down hard descents, because it's a bit wider and the grip feels a bit more secure. It's got slightly better grip on soft ground as well, I'd say, the Endorphin Edge, but not much. It's still not a shoe I'd want to go and do a long run in the mud in. And still, of those two, I'd probably prefer the Fuji Speed for hard workouts, short races. Endorphin Edge has a bit more to it for longer events as well. And the North Face Summit Vective Pro, I didn't get on with that shoe that well because the way the carbon winglet rubbed my foot a little bit, but that is a much more a shoe that's built as a cruiser for long events. That's really an ultra shoe as well in my mind, whereas the Fuji Speed, I think, sits almost alongside it if you have a trail range for your very different trail races, because it's a faster shoe, more direct shoe, definitely better, I think, for nippy, small amounts of hills and fast racing over short distances, whereas the Summit Vective Pro, I think, is going to give you that extra comfort, the really deep into long runs if you don't get the rubbing from the carbon winglet. One thing to say about all those shoes is they are more expensive than the Fuji Speed too, which is a bit of a bargain really all round, given how capable a shoe it is. So yeah, it hasn't got the most exciting foam in the market in there. Like, things like the Ultrafly and the Adidas trail shoe do use their company's best foams, and I'm sure in time Asics will consider using that as well. But I think the overall package is certainly very good. It's a really good shoe that I like having available, like I say, to go and do hard workouts on mild trails, and it can handle other trails. I just think you're going to get a bit more comfort and stability from some of the other shoes I mentioned, and certainly if you're looking at ultra distances, that will come into play. If somebody doesn't do ultra marathons and doesn't want to spend 200 quid on your trail shoe, the Fuji Speed is a really strong option for a fast trail shoe.
So for me personally, I would wear this shoe again definitely for races that are kind of 5k 10k trail races. I would comfortably wear it just on an easy run. That's the way that I use the Hoka Tech on X. I'll use that on easy runs just to make it feel a bit more easy when you're running over a bit more challenging terrain. It kind of gives you that carbon plate, gives you that leveler between your paces on the road to then going onto the trail. Usually the trail's a bit harder, isn't it? So the plate, I'm not using it for racing, I'm using it to kind of make my trail running a bit more comparable to my road. So for me, I would happily go out for easy runs, 5, 10k, and race over those distances. I personally maybe wouldn't go into a trail marathon in this shoe, but I would like something with a bit more sole under me if I was, but perfect for a 5-mile cross country race or a potter around the trails. I did run at the start of the year. I had the Asics Fuji Light 3, and this it feels like a very different shoe. They both share that Fuji in the name, but the Fuji Light wasn't a shoe that I loved, wasn't excited about it. It was fine. It would have been a good introductory trail shoe for light trail, but it wasn't something that I was like reaching for to run again and again. Whereas this one, I do think will make an appearance in my running rotation again, and it's good price for the shoe that it is.